of in the field of consulting with EY's Media and Entertainment Advisory Services in India. He holds certification in internal auditing and has over 2 decades of experience over 50 plus media firms, systems auditing, and is a chartered accountant. Today, he will be sharing his insights on career opportunities in consulting. So, we are delighted to have you on board for today's session. Before we get started, I would also like to introduce our principal, Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, whose expertise has always been our guiding light. Unfortunately, Pooja ma'am couldn't join us today due to some prior commitments. I would also introduce Dr. Naveen Punjabi, Associate Professor and Director of Placement Cell. All of us know him as a very enthusiastic mentor with the vision to ignite minds and awaken hearts. Unfortunately, Sir couldn't join us due to certain unforeseen circumstances. Today's session will focus on career opportunities in consulting. So, I now invite you to address our students and share your valuable insights.
Okay, so can you see my slides?
Yes, so we can.
Okay, so this topic, I think the third time I'm doing this for HR. So, I think I'm becoming an expert at consulting about consulting, and happy to be here. Please let it be as interactive as possible. If you have any questions, you can ask me at any time. Just put on your mic and go ahead and ask me questions. All right. The session will take a little more than half an hour. All right. And I've tried to cover a lot of things that I wish I knew when I got into consulting. All right, because that would have helped me build my career in consulting a lot better. But if there's anything else you'd like to know, we can have a lot of questions either during the session or after the session. Also, one more request. I have a few live polls, about three questions, which I'm going to ask during the course. So if you have your phones with you, please keep them ready so you can participate in the polls as well. All right, and with that, I'm going to start. All right, so I finished 28 years in consulting, and that's me when I joined, 28 years ago. You can see I was a lot thinner. All my hair was black, and I had a big smile. And now, 28 years later, which I finished, on 30th of June, 2024, you can see there's a lot more white hair and a lot fatter. And that's what basically, according to me, 28 years in consulting actually did to me. I'm a little thinner now than the photo on the right, but that's the fattest that I got, which is about 6 months back. And I've lost some weight with dieting and stuff. But that's really how it actually looks. But I think consulting really is fun. It's about the diversity that you get. So all these names flashing on the screen right now are basically the clients or the projects that I have worked on across 28 years. I've been lucky. I did everything from Femina Miss India, worked at Z, Sony, Star, IFA, Film Awards, Radio Mirchi, cricket, the KBC play along game that's there on TV where you can play along with the hot seat participants, or, working for a newspaper company. I'm right now sitting in the office of Times of India, which is one of my clients. Worked for Discovery in several countries across the world. Imagination, which is a beautiful company that's a joint venture between the Abu Dhabi government and Walt Disney. Ananda Bazar Patrika, regional newspaper company with TV channels and digital channels. Sunburn, which I'm sure you would have heard of. Red Chilies, Shah Rukh Khan's production arm. And you will see that the one thing that consulting does offer you is variety. All right. And you can see that I've been very fortunate to have a massive amount of different interesting clients to work with across all forms. However, I must say one thing, that since 1999, I only worked on media and entertainment, which is why you'll see all my clients over here are what I mentioned are media and entertainment. So, for the last 29 years or so, 25 years or so, I have only worked on media and entertainment clients. And that is something that's very important, because that's what clients value. They like someone who comes and understands their industry. Especially if you're a consultant, you just can't be a generalist. So you get a lot of variety. Being a consultant, you get to work with many, many, many companies, but there still is a very big need to specialize. Otherwise, you'll never actually add any value to your clients. Okay, so that's why I put this slide on, just to show that there's a lot of variety, but you need specialization as well. Which brings me to my first part and first poll question: what is consulting? And I want you to slide that QR. If you have a phone, please use your QR scanner, or you can just go to slido.com and type in 64049. And it's there on the next page as well. So I'm going to keep it there and answer this question. What do you think is consulting? All right. If you have any problems with this, let me know. I think it should work. Yes, we're starting to get answers. So it is working. Okay, we've got 6 responses, 10. Yeah, what do you think is consulting? Which of these, according to you, is really what consulting is all about? Thirty-one responses. I'll give it another half a minute. Okay, we've crossed 50, so let me take it from here. So, well, the reality is it's actually all of these, and I'm going to try and explain why I'm saying that. Okay, solving problems, yes, is the number one thing that you do as a consultant, right? But why do they need you to solve problems? These are people who've been in their companies for so many years. They actually know their companies a lot better than any external consultant will know their company. So why do you think, and anyone, please answer this question, why do you think they come to consultants to solve problems? Why do you need a consultant to solve a problem? Anybody? Just unmute yourself and have a go.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
Yeah, so I think consultants can solve the problems because they have a particular expertise in that field.
So, this is what I expected the answer to be, that we would come with a little expertise. The reality is we don't have the expertise as much as our clients. And that's the first myth I want to bust over here, that our clients know their businesses a lot better than we know their business. All right. But still they use consulting because we work with 20 companies in that space. And we would have seen that some other company perhaps solving that issue in a better manner in what we call in consulting jargon as leading practice or best practice, right? So the thing that you as a consultant are expected to know, which helps you to solve problems, is what is the leading practices, what are the best practices in that industry, in that process. That's what people are all about. Now let's move on to the second one, providing additional hands and legs to clients. And 30% of the votes have said that. That is also correct. Many times clients are not sure that, they're starting a new division, or they're implementing a, ERP like SAP or Oracle or Salesforce or something. They sometimes say that, boss, should I hire extra people right now to run it for me, or first should I use a consulting firm who has experience of running Oracle or SAP or whatever? It gets me going on the road, and then slowly I'll hire internal people, because hiring people is a lot cheaper than hiring consultants all the time. And therefore, many times we are actually used as providing extra hands and legs. My team gets very unhappy with me when I use the words hands and legs. They say, Ashish, you should be saying they hire extra brains. So I stand corrected and say it should be they hire extra brains. All right. But according to me, the third one, which is helping clients increase profits, is the number one reason that people hire consultants. All right. I've seen this year after year, client after client. You can do the best consulting work with the best recommendations. But if they do not help client profitability or client growth or profitable client growth, clients will not be happy with you. And therefore, helping a client grow and increase their profits becomes perhaps the number one reason why, clients will come to you. A lot of what I do is helping clients, say that, okay, you're working in a certain manner. Where can you cut costs? What are the other revenue opportunities you may not have, identified? Like we're working for a newspaper company a couple of years back where we said that, you're doing a great job on circulation, you're doing a great job on advertising, but you're not doing enough events. And we help them create a roadmap to say they will do this award and that function and exhibition and seminar. And I was talking to the CEO yesterday, and he's saying, you know what, we've now reached 6% of our revenues from events, which was 0%, 2 years back. So, and the fact is that he called to tell me that because he's so happy that say, yeah, boss, you have helped us increase our revenues. You have helped us increase our profits. We're now doing 5-6% additional revenue. So the number one reason is helping clients increase their profits. Future gazing is a very interesting thing. There was a large broadcasting company, and this was pre-COVID, all right, 2019. And I had gone to them and they had said, Ashish, we want you to do a pitch. We want you to help us with our strategy. So I said, okay, I'll come and pitch on how we can help you with your strategy. Who's the competition? So they said, competition is McKinsey, BCG. And we thought you guys are very good in media. So we'll ask you also to come. And he said, but I'm being honest with you. I don't think you have a very strong chance of winning because you're Ernst & Young. You're known for audit, tax, and a little bit of consulting. McKinsey and BCG and all are hardcore, blue-blooded strategy firms. So, but we like you and we think you're good. Come. I went with one slide. Can you imagine? So there was first McKinsey, then BCG, then EY. McKinsey went with 40 slides, BCG went with 80 slides, and I came in with one slide at the end. And that one slide only had one thing on it. It said, today, you are 4.25% of the Indian media and entertainment industry. By 2028, you will be 1.75%. And these are the 5 things why that's going to go from 4% to 1 point some percent. All right. And this is what, therefore, we think we want you to work at. And his first question was, why are you saying we're going down? And I went back to him and said, because your focus is traditional television. Traditional television itself, in our estimates of the future, is going to come down in importance significantly. Okay. But connected TVs will grow. You don't have a presence on connected TVs. Gaming will grow. You don't have a presence on gaming. Free television, which is Doordarshan Free Dish, will grow significantly, 3 times its size. You don't have any content or product for free television audience. So we did our future gazing and went back to the client and said, in our version of the future of the media and entertainment industry in India, you're a broadcaster, you're working in the media industry. Palak, if you could just, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if the industry is changing, this is how the future looks like. Where you're present is really not going to stay very relevant. And that future gazing thing, we got feedback, was so impressive that they gave us the project rather than giving it to the blue-blooded strategy guys, because they said they did not have a vision of the future, but we saw you had a clear vision of where the industry is, and therefore we wanted to work with you. Future gazing is also a very important part of being a consultant. All right. Is it easy to gaze the future? Absolutely not. It's extremely difficult. All right. But having a point of view of where the industry is heading is extremely important. And if you can help your clients with future gazing, your clients will love you forever. It is just going to be phenomenal. All right. And the last part, giving gyan. 1% of you have said that, which means, I don't know, one person has said giving gyan. And that is also correct. Because a lot of times I've realized my clients call me and say, Ashish, come, you want to chat. And I go there and the chat is invariably about, they have a doubt in their head and they're asking answers, saying, boss, how will this evolve? What do you think is happening? Where do you think this will go? Is this a genuine trend or is it just a spike? We had a client who was very excited sometime back by NFTs. Right? It was a craze a couple of years back. Everyone was investing in NFTs. People are buying digital rights, collectibles, and all kinds of weird stuff on the NFT side. And they came to us and said, will NFTs be big? And I said, my point of view, Indians probably will not be so big on NFT because they like to touch and feel everything. They like a value associated with something. They don't like to invest in something that can be extremely easily pirated and lost. And therefore, that advice. They sometimes called us to help them with a gyan, with our point of view, our thoughts, etc. So that is also consulting. So if you add it all right, what is consulting? Consulting is basically you're a doctor for their business. All right, the business has certain problems. Either the business is not growing, or the business has, a pain in the arm or the leg, or is not able to function properly. They come to consultants to help them address the problems, the health of their business. And therefore, if I were to ask you a second question, say all of you would have gone to a doctor or have taken someone to a doctor in your life. How do you choose a doctor? Who can tell me what is the most important criteria for choosing a doctor? Why do you pick Dr. A versus Dr. B? Is it because he's the closest to your home? Come on, somebody unmute and answer me. Why do you choose a doctor? What do you keep in mind when choosing a doctor? I think people are posting on the chat. Should I be reading that?
Sir, I guess
Reference.
maybe I would choose Dr. A over Dr. B because the medicines which he gave, like they cured me more
Yeah,
effectively than B.
correct. So I'm saying reputation, I'm saying expertise, experience, again, experience. Very interesting. The same doctor who cured me earlier. What does that mean? You trust the guy? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's trust, reputation, and expertise and experience. That's exactly how you choose a consultant. All right. They come to us only if they trust us. If they feel we are going to work in their good, this thing. It's very difficult to build trust. Very easy to break trust, just like in a marriage, right? Very difficult to build trust. They come to us because they say, we feel you have the knowledge, the experience, the expertise required to help us. So consulting is a tough profession, right? It's very tough to credentialize yourself in front of a client and like say, yeah, I trust this guy and he has the knowledge required to help me. Therefore, I will go it. Or last time he did a good job, let me try him again, right? That's exactly why you go to a consultant. That's exactly why we were called to that broadcaster, right? To help them with their strategy. But they said, we know you guys do a lot of good work in the space. That's the reputation, the expertise that we have built in the market, which is why they come to us. And therefore, choosing a consultant is exactly like choosing a doctor. You have to earn the client's trust. You have to have a good track record, and you have to have the knowledge and you must feel you have the right level of knowledge. And I will come more to these factors later. But I just wanted to say this is consulting. All the 5 things you're seeing on the slide right now, and the reason why you choose a consultant is the same as why you choose a doctor. Any questions on this? Else, I will proceed. For some reason, I'm not able to proceed. Yeah. But consulting isn't generic. Okay, the era of generalists is honestly over. Okay, you will see there's a lot of little 6-sided hexagons over here. And I'm starting with the top right, which is tax and audit. And that's colored gray, and everything else is colored blue. Can anyone tell me what's the difference between tax and audit? Why have I colored it differently from all the rest? Anybody? These are all forms of consulting.
So I would like to answer that.
Yes.
Tax and audit would come in all the departments or all different type of businesses, whereas in every type of business it would come. Whereas others would be specific to the specific
to their
specific
separate
business.
specific departments. Tax is also specific to departments. How taxing is done on, say, advertising versus subscription versus manufacturing, very, very different. Okay, but not a bad try. Okay, what is the other difference? Come on, anyone else? Why have I shaded those two different from all the rest? What is the difference between a strategy discussion and a tax discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
Is it because tax and audit can be done by a CA? So
No. Nice try again. Anyone else?
So maybe because in the growth of strategy, it focuses on the strategy which the particular business wants for its growth, and tax and audit is specialized in the tax and audit of that firm or business.
No, not that either. Okay. Okay, I'm getting some answers here. Tax and audit consultation given by CA. No, maybe because of tax laws for different sectors. No. EY started with tax and audit, then pivoted to other. Very true. But why? I'll tell you. Tax consulting is application of the laws or the rules of the Income Tax Act. Audit is the application of the auditing standards defined by the Institute of Chartered Accountants. These are rule-based consulting. There are a set of rules defined saying this is the right way, this is the wrong way. You have to make sure you're going by the right way, what is acceptable as per law. All the rest, supply chain, marketing, consumer, direct to consumer, and ESG, which is environment, sustainability, governance, information technology, regulatory. These are not rule-based consulting. This consulting is extremely creative and it is extremely difficult to do. All right. So I will give you some examples. So tax consulting is basically how should I structure a certain business that I want to start? Should I set it up as a limited liability partnership? Or should I set it up as a company, a private limited company? Should I set it up in Dubai or India or in the Mauritius? Do I have a tax treaty, double taxation avoidance? All of that is tax consulting. Okay. When you look at growth and strategy, is it rule-based? Can I read a set of rules and say, you do this, you will grow? No, you can't do it that way. You have to think, you have to study the market and say, okay, in the market, these are the factors driving growth. So is the total addressable market growing or not? Based on that, what are the competitive players doing? Competition has got these strengths. What are my strengths? How can I help my market share grow? How can I help my revenues grow? There are so many variables in all of these factors that I have listed. All right. That is what drives the creative aspect that I'm talking about. I've put finance consulting over there. Do you know what finance consulting is? Finance consulting is really about how the finance function can support businesses. I just came out of the meeting, right? Maybe a few hours ago today, where the guy sitting next to me and saying we have 18 companies and I don't have a view on common customers and what is the total receivable from customers. So even if a customer has a very high outstanding, big debtors in company one, I'm doing business in company two and increasing my exposure to that consultant. How can finance as a function now operate in a manner where it becomes a support to business saying, hey, their overall exposure is too high. You can't be working with this guy anymore until you collect some money. So finance consulting is a very important part. Legal and regulatory is one of the fastest growing things. So recently there were so many bills that have been released by the government for telecom, for retail, for e-commerce, media, broadcast bill, which just got cancelled. And there's an army of people who read the bills and say, okay, what's the impact of this law on us? So I don't know whether recently you guys read, but there was a big thing on advertising where they said that any claim that you are making, all right, that say a brand is saying my detergent makes your shirt whiter than anybody else, or my bathroom cleaner removes 99% of all germs, or my exterior wall paint keeps your house 2 degrees cooler than anyone else. Well, there is an impact on the whole business of FMCGs who are doing this selling, or saying that, oh God, now before we can advertise, we need to get it certified that this claim is genuine. It has an impact on a digital platform like Geo Cinema or Hotstar, saying before the ad can be played, I have to put in a process change which says, is there a claim being made? And if a claim is being made, has that been validated? All right. So each of these is, a different type of consulting that we do. Marketing. We have a large marketing consulting practice in EY. All right. Where we help clients not only select ad agencies, but also increase the efficiency, prevent ad fraud, prevent wastage by, having an ad coming 50 times in front of its audience, in front of the same guy. This called a frequency cap. So marketing consulting is an art in itself. Supply chain consulting. How do you cut time? How do you cut costs? How do you optimize routes? How do you optimize storage? How do you optimize stocking functions in your warehouse? I mean, there's a whole science behind all of this, which uses AI and automated scheduling, automated reorder levels. I mean, it's a massive, massive area. Consumer, another very important piece of the puzzle, really. How are you connecting with your consumer? If your consumer is no longer spending as much time on TV but is spending more time on social media, then how do I connect with that consumer? How do I bring him to my portal? What is the cost of acquiring a customer? How do I sell to the customer? After the sale, how do I upsell, resell? Keep him in mind. Do I build a community? So each of these areas is a massive area in itself. And the reason I'm trying to say that is that no longer can you work across all areas. You have to choose an area and say, that's the area that I want to work in. In my case, I chose not an area, but I chose a sector. And I said, I will only work in media and entertainment. And therefore, the last 25 odd years, I've only worked in media and entertainment. And that's really what is the need. So consulting is now an extremely specialized function. There is a question, how is legal, regulatory, and tax audit different? Like I said, tax and audit is rule-based. Regulatory is the impact of changes in legislation on how your business operates, how your vendors operate, how your customers will behave with you. It's a very, very different field, and it's extremely, extremely exciting right now. One of the most amazing things that happen. You'll see at the bottom right, there's something called M&A. That stands for mergers and acquisition. Mergers and acquisition is one of the most exciting parts, again, of consulting, where you go to a company and say, hey, you know what, you need to acquire this other company, and these are the benefits you will get by doing that, right? Just to let you know, do you know how many such acquisitions happen every year? You can put your answers on the chat. How many mergers and acquisitions happen in India every year? Anybody? You have a guess on that? Anybody? How many deals take place? Acquisitions, joint ventures, mergers, partnerships. How many do you think happen every year? Right? HUL bought Horlicks right now from somebody. That's also an acquisition, right? Vistara is getting merged into Air India. Air India was sold itself by the government to the Tatas, right? Can anyone guess how many mergers and acquisitions happen every year? You can unmute yourself or use the chat, whatever. Someone saying 150. Can I type in the message in the chat? What is the real number? It's more than 10,000 that we are tracking. And if someone's saying 40,000, I won't be amazed if that is also the case, because there's a large SME segment where nobody tracks what's going on, and there also things happen. So that's the kind. So in an environment where so much is happening, you can't, afford to be a generalist. It's always good, if you want to build a career in consulting, take one area and really go deep into it. Environment, great area for consulting. We are helping companies reduce their carbon footprint. And it's one of the largest and fastest growing practices now that EY has, where we're just saying, okay, boss, what is your combustion? What are your carbon credits? That you can avail of? What are where are you wasting electricity? How can you cut down travel or reduce the number of flight tickets or whatever it is, right? And huge policy changes and the way of working changes. Again, IT, of course, I don't need to get into, it's bread and butter for everybody. But be a specialist, don't be a generalist. That's how the industry is evolving. Okay, now we come to very interesting. Who's a client? Okay. The interesting thing, like I said, is clients always know more than we do. They know their businesses a lot better. Very few, in my experience of 28 years, actually know less than we do. There are some absolute idiots. You will come across them in your life, but 95% will always know more than you. But the single unique thing about a client is that none of them want to be told what to do by an external consultant. And that makes consulting extremely, extremely difficult. Okay. Even if they know they are wrong, even if you prove to them with data that what you're doing is bad, it's reducing your profitability. In some cases, even when you tell them that, boss, what you're doing is so inefficient, I can make you leave 1 hour early every day and go home, they will not want to listen to you. And therefore, consulting becomes extremely difficult because there's an ego issue that comes in when you come, especially, young consultants. When I joined consulting, I was 20 years old, 21 years old, right? Imagine you go and meet someone, and one of my first jobs was at VSNL, the state telecom company. I went to VSNL and I met this guy, and I said, look at your data. You have unreconciled transactions for international calls with 80 countries since so many months, right? You're not able to do it. And the key reason is this is the problem. And if you solve this right now, you'll be able to do reconciliations within 3 months rather than within 8 and 10 and 12 and 16 months. And the man sat me down and said, I'll never forget. He came and said, Ashish, sit in front of me and let me tell you something. I said, yes, sir, tell me. You are 100% wrong, is how he started. And he told me. And he explained in detail why, if he did what I said, he would have to fire 3 people from his team because there would be no work for them to do. Can you imagine that? So he knows what he's doing is wrong. He knows it's extremely inefficient. But he's like, if I do what you tell me, I'll have to fire 3 people. What about their lives and their families? So there's always another story. And most clients, even till today, and that's just one example, there are 100 examples where they know they're doing things wrong, but they will not want to be told how to do it right. And there'll be egos that come in, and there'll be insecurities that come in. And therefore, it becomes actually a little difficult. But unfortunately, that's the reality. I just want to tell you as it is, because all of you guys may think at the age of 21 and all, you will go storming into a client wearing a really cool suit and shiny shoes, and you think the client's going to receive you with open arms and listen to every word you say. Not going to happen. I don't think they started listening to me until I crossed 40, to be quite honest. Then they actually think, okay, let me at least listen to the guy. It's tough. Anyway, so what does it take to be a consultant? There are 6 points that I'm going to take you through. First one, like I said, is knowledge. Okay. It's the table stakes in a certain sense. If you don't have knowledge, if you don't have a point of view on where the industry is headed, or you don't have a point of view on the impact of what's happening in the external world, or if you don't have a point of view on the company itself, no client is going to waste their time listening to you. Another example I always give out here is that of my own mom. So she's a doctor, all right? And she retired a few years back in 2020. She retired at COVID at the age of 80, right? And I noticed that every day of her life, she'd go to work, she'd come back in the evening. She was a pediatrician, an allergy specialist, an asthma specialist. She would spend at least 45 minutes to an hour reading. And I was like, Mom, you're like one of the most prestigious doctors. You work at Hinduja Hospital. But every day you come home and you're always studying, And she's saying, if I don't study, I will become irrelevant. And every single day, she used to speak 45 minutes minimum, and sometimes more than an hour as well, because she's like, I have to stay relevant. The world is changing. Medicines are changing. Techniques are changing. Knowledge is improving on how to treat diseases. If I don't know it, how will I ever be required by my patients? And I would say the same of whatever you do, not just consulting, but anywhere you are in life, whatever career you choose. If you don't have the knowledge and you don't spend time on knowledge, you should never get into any work, honestly, especially not consulting. It's the only weapon that as a consultant you actually have. These pictures on the right are reports that I release on the media and entertainment sector every year for the FICCI industry body. And I must tell you, the effort that I put in for each of these reports is phenomenal. I actually interview between 70 and 80 CEOs one-on-one. I go meet them face-to-face. I interview them, I understand what they're seeing in the industry, and I collate all that knowledge, add my own point of view, and release these reports. This is perhaps the single biggest thing that gets me in front of them. And it's also the single biggest thing that builds our reputation. When people come and say, you guys understand media, it's perhaps because of this report that I release every year. Knowledge is the most important thing. I can't tell you how important it is, but equally important are people skills. Okay, technical knowledge is critical, which is the previous slide, but it's literally hygiene. If you don't have technical knowledge, you don't have anything to sell to the client. But people skills are extremely important. So if you're considering a career in consulting, first, please evaluate your people skills. Are you able to work well with people? Are you able to lead your team? Are you able to convince a client why he needs to change? Are you able to earn the trust of a client so that they even open up and tell you their problems? It's very difficult for people to open up and say, I have a problem. I am not good at this. This part of what I do is not okay. It takes years of practice before people will start opening up to you. It took me more than 7, 8 years before my clients started opening up to me and saying, yeah, we have an issue, boss. We need help. To get to that level, I had to invest and go and meet people again and again and again and give them gyan and show them I'm worthy of them. I have the knowledge for them, that I'm on their side. They should be able to trust me. I don't do anything wrong for them. I'm wanting to invest in them. That's when you start opening up to a consultant. That's when the clients start actually talking about their problem. So it's all about people skills. And once you do that, once you convince the CEO or the CFO that you're worth it, and he gives you a project, then you go to the process owner and tell him you're doing a bad job, and he will say, go jump in the lake. What do you know? You've just come into the company. I've been here 25 years. So you've got to convince at every level. You've got to convince people. You've got to take them along with you. And therefore, consulting, of course, technical skills is super important, but people skills equally important, because you can have the best technical knowledge. There's no point if your client is not even willing to listen to what you're saying. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing, again, something I'm very passionate about, is basically partnerships. You're not alone in consulting. In fact, there are three ones. I don't know what happened to my screen. I don't know what's happened. Yeah, one second. I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm not being able to see anything. Okay, yeah. There are three kinds of partnerships. There's a partnership between you and the client. I spoke about that, right? Unless your client opens up to you, you will never be able to solve his problem. And that's the first partnership, which you build using knowledge. The second is the partnership between you yourself as the firm, in my case, EY. Sometimes I'll realize that the problem the partner has is not my specialization. It may be something, say, in the realm of treasury management, which I really don't know anything about. At that point, as a consultant, I shouldn't feel bad. I should go back to EY and say, hey, who's the guy who understands treasury, and put them in front of the client. And that's the second partnership, that is important, where you, in effect, as a consultant, are not just going to sell what you know as a specialist, but you bring the right people in front of the client over there. And the third is really the partnership between the client and the firm, in my case, EY, right? How well is EY perceived by the client? I've had this case, and it's a hilarious story. All right. 8 years, I went to a client and he never gave me any work. He was very polite. Whenever I asked to meet, he met me. And whenever I pitched work, he would say, sorry, Ashish, we can't work with you. Every time this happened for 8 years. One day I went to him and said, Mr. Krishnan, you've been doing this to me for 8 years. Can you tell me what I have done wrong? Why don't you ever work with me? You're working with all the others, but you're not working with me. And he said, you know what, 8 years back, your tax guys gave me very bad advice. And after that, I said, I can't trust EY. This was the reason. I said, then you should have told me, no, Baba, one is I'm wasting my time. You're never going to give me work. But I said, if that's the case, okay, we won't do. You trust me. I've been meeting you every year without fail, many times a year. We have good friends. Trust me. And then he said, okay, let me think about it. And finally, after another year or so, he gave me a project. Now, of course, we work with them a lot. But he still doesn't give us tax work. Because his initial impression that the firm is bad in tax is so strong that he will never give us tax work over there, but he works with us on consulting and audit and everything else that we do. So it's all about partnership. It's not about us being alone. There's an impact of the firm that we work with on the client. There's an impact of whom we can bring from the firm as a specialist. And of course, the relationship that we ourselves as consultants have with clients. So we're not alone, and there are a lot of factors that impact that relationship. Moving on. Now, this is something that is very important. It's creativity, right? There's a lot of analysis that we do, or a lot of data. And that's where we use the left side of our brain, the blue side, right? The logical side of our brain. But after we get the analysis, we've got a finding. We say, aha, this is what's going wrong. This is why it's taking so long to do something, or this is why the cost is so high, or this is why the growth is not happening. Then what? You need a solution of how to address that problem. And I've realized that most people are actually most companies are very different, and what works at one may not always work at all the others, right? And therefore, you have to do a lot of out of the box thinking. You have to be very, very creative, and therefore, you use the right side of the brain as well, which is the creative side, where imagination comes in, where a lot of gut feeling, intuition comes in. And therefore, if you have that creative bent of mind, it's really, you will be an amazing consultant. Let me tell you that. If you have logic, that's par for the course. You need logic. But if you then bring in a layer of creativity and say, this is how to solve a problem, that's fantastic. I remember long back, and this was in 1999 perhaps, KBC was launching in India. And at that time, we didn't have smartphones. We had, regular landlines in everyone's house, right? I don't know whether you guys were born there, probably not. But we had landlines. And if you wanted to participate in KBC, you had to pick up the phone, dial a 10-digit number at that point of time. And there was an interactive voice recorded message which played, and you had to choose numbers as response. Press 1 for male, 2 for female, education level. And we were given a challenge by Star TV at that time, where it launched, saying that, boss, we need to know these 5 things about each and every participant, because we need to shortlist them based on their geography, whether they are male, women, what is their education level, what is their income level, all of that. And if otherwise, we have a risk that there's so many people going to apply that we'll all have only men, no women, so on and so forth, right? So they gave it to us and said, guys, help us crack it. We've given up. I've told you the problem, but we need to, be able to classify people. When we did that, we finally figured a way that with a maximum of 3 questions, you could find out all 5 things. That problem solving out of the box capability done by somebody is what the client swore by us. Do you know that even till today, after so many years, we still do this process for KBC. Of course, now it's moved on to smartphones and stuff. But because of that initial impression that the client had, hey, they really helped us solve a very intricate problem, we will keep working with EY on this stuff. So that is how important creativity is. And again, you don't have to do it alone. Sometimes you call your other colleagues and say, this is a client's problem. How can we solve? Sometimes you work with the client. In fact, I find that best. So there are 2 or 3 of us from EY, there are 2 or 3 people from the client. We do a workshop, we say, this is the problem, these are some solutions, will this work, not work, debate, and you actually come up with a wonderful solution. The 4th most important thing is creativity. The 5th is the width and the focus. And I spoke about this a little earlier in terms of specialization. So I am in this table that you see the media column. I lead media for E&Y as a sector. I've said I want to focus on media and entertainment. But within that, I don't do strategy. I don't do finance, consumer, people, supply chain, SAP, nothing. I do only media and efficiency within media. That's my specialization, right? And therefore, I'm just saying that we have to have that focus. That specialist is what people are, because when someone in, say, Z or Viacom or whatever, say, I want someone who's a specialist in strategy. They don't want a generic strategy specialist. They want a strategy specialist within media, or an efficiency specialist within media, or an SAP specialist with media experience. And that's really where consulting is heading, the massive, massive amount of specialization. So again, for those who are wanting to do a career in consulting, your first 2-3 years will not be specialization, but please ensure after 3 years you start specializing in something, because the specialist gets the premium and the demand is always there for the specialist. Okay. Moving on, and the last point is really hard work, right? This is a joke I found, I was just seeing this online, it's hilarious. But the rule that I follow normally is that if I have Hitashi, can you just go on mute, please? Okay. If you have a 10-minute meeting, it will take me 20 to 30 minutes to prepare for that meeting. That's how much you need to prepare for everything. If you have to write a mail, you have to prepare before you write a mail. If you have to send out a report, you have to prepare so much before you can send out that report, which may be just half a page or 1 paragraph, right? Everything is about hard work, right? You have to work really, really hard in consulting. It's not a shortcut. For those who think it's very cool and fancy and you dress up in suits and you have 5-star hotel meetings, I can assure you it is extremely, extremely difficult work, a lot of hard work. I had a meeting yesterday which lasted 1.5 hours. It was a presentation on creating an esports cricket league. Okay, it took me and 2 members of my team more than 80 hours each. That's 240 hours before we came up with a 1.5 hour presentation for a client. That's how much you need to prepare. So consulting is tough. And I'm just going to reiterate all these 6 things again. You need knowledge. You need a lot of knowledge, and you need to keep investing in your knowledge every day. You need people skills, otherwise nobody's going to listen to your knowledge. You need to have partnerships so you can bring the best of the specialists to the client and build the trust of the client. You have to be creative. You have to specialize in something. You can't be just wide and random. You have to have focus. And there's a lot of hard work involved. And that's really what the life of a consultant is. Now, for the career path, I saw this also. I thought it was a hilarious article. It's not really about Deloitte, it's about all of us, even EY, EW, KPMG, Bain, BCG, AT Kearney, you name it. This applies to all of us. Our consultants love to work so much that they'll work 80, 90, sometimes 100 hours a week, because they love us so much. The amount of hard work that you put in is phenomenal. And this brings me to my second question. What's the right time to get into consulting? So again, go back to your poll machine and let's see what your results show. Should you first do consulting and then go to industry? Should you first do industry?
Yeah, 24.
ऐसा तुम्हें अभी लग रहा है, but when you read that ना तुमको लगेगा बहुत जल्दी है, because
Ujjwal,
मैंने ऐसे
can
लोगों को
you
देखा है.
go on mute, please? Ujjwal?
तो लड़कियों का बायोलॉजिकल क्लॉक
हाँ, that I know.
क्योंकि मेरी बुआ है ना, मेरी बुआ ने बहुत मतलब
Yeah, thanks. Should you do consulting first and then get into industry? Should you first work in industry, then go to consulting? Should you first work in industry, do an MBA, then get into consulting, or get into industry? What do you think is the right way? You've got about 16 responses. You give it another half a minute. Messages coming. Consulting is a real MBA, sir. I'm not so sure about that, but I will tell you my point of view. So I think 53% of you are saying that, you should first go to industry, then do an MBA, and then get into consulting. I'm completely with you on that. All right. I think the right thing to do is first get into industry and not into consulting. And why do I say that? Because as a consultant, you will never go very deep. You'll never be doing anything. You'll only be reviewing stuff that others have done. And you'll only be giving gyan on top of that, or a recommendation on top of that. My honest feeling is go to industry, and any industry, and work for a couple of years, 2-3 years, right? And just see what it is when someone says, yeah, go and sell a soap. What does it mean to sell a soap? Or someone says, go and, finalize this account, these accounts, okay, or do a stock take, or, go and help someone implement a new handheld device for issuing receipts. Go and let the rubber meet the road. Go and understand what it is to actually execute something. Then do an MBA, and then you can get into consulting or industry. That it's up to you. In fact, my personal thing would be do consulting, do industry, do MBA, go back to industry after you're 40. If you're sick of industry, if you see no chance of being CEO, then get into consulting. All right. In consulting is for white-haired, old, boring people like me. All right. I'm not a big fan of saying start early. Even though I started early, I wish someone had told me don't join consulting first. Go and work in a company first and see how it is. Get into consulting later, because nobody's going to listen to you for the first 10 years of your career as a consultant, to be quite honest. So I'm going to leave this thought with you. I'm a big believer in going into industry for at least until you're 40, 45, then thinking of moving into consulting. How's the moolah? Is it higher, lower, or is it? So the way it starts is actually consulting starts with higher pay packages than industry. But within 3 to 4 years, industry overtakes consulting. And in the long run, it's all the same. All right, it doesn't matter. So you decide if you want quick money, yes, good to get into consulting. But 3 years later, you'll be repenting, saying, oh, boss, industries are paying much better than consulting. So you figure out how it is. All I can tell you is in the long run, everyone gets what they deserve. If you're good, you get paid more. If you're bad, you get paid less. Life goes on. All right. The joys, of course, of consulting is variety, right? Like I showed you on my first slide, I worked with more than 150 media companies in my career, right? And that you will never get when you're in industry. This the pure width of knowledge, the pure, number of people that you meet and the different thinking that everybody does, is absolutely the best part of consulting. And of course, the challenge, because they continuously throw problems at you, right? But it's tough. It is very challenging. So I will also say that, we say in consulting, you're as good as your last job. The minute you mess up on a client, no, trust me, next 3 projects, he will not even look at you. So it's always very, very difficult as well. But the challenge, the continuous thing to say, I have to perform, I have to deliver. If you like it, consulting is great for you. But the variety is phenomenal. You just have so much fun. There are sorrows, of course, right? The performance stress, like I said, every job you have to deliver. Someone's paying you, you can't say, oh, well, this time I'm not delivering value. Next time, that's not how it works. You will feel that stress. And I thought this consulting humor was bang on. It said, one day you'll feel incredibly underpaid as a consultant, considering how amazing you are, because you would have probably gone and done something great at a client. And the next day at a next client, and you're completely bamboozled, you have no clue what's going on. And you just feel, how the hell did I even get hired? I'm so dumb. So, one thing that consulting does is it completely kills your ego, because nobody can keep performing at a good level. At some point, you collapse and your ego gets hammered because clients are unforgiving at that point in time. So there's a lot of performance stress over there. And the second sorrow, really, the pain part is, at some point, I feel that now when I'm, 30, from the age of 30, 35, I used to feel it. I just don't have the depth required. Sometimes you'll go and give a recommendation to the client. A client will look at you and say, that is never going to be possible to implement. And he'll give you a reason why, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Right? So you've never done it. So as a career consultant, I will look back and say, boss, I should have figured that out. I mean, so logical. But because I've never actually implemented something, the lack of depth of my knowledge is very evident. I may have a very good worldview. Clients love the fact that I have so much exposure to different media companies and I come with all that knowledge. But for implementation, they're like, you tell us what we need to change, we'll probably figure it out better than you ever will. So there are joys, there are sorrows. And that's really the end of my presentation, except for one final question. Let's see, would you like to be in consulting? Go back to your Slido and tell me what you think is your future preference. Fully anonymous, don't worry. So I have no record of this. Oh my God, all 6 till now, all 9 till now want to be. Thank you. Somebody is sensible over here. After I tell you all the negatives, still a majority is saying I want to be in consulting. Baapre. Yes, there's a comment come in. What does it say? Placement team. Feedback form as well. Yes, please do feedback forms. Very important. Okay, so that's it. We're done. Happy to take any questions now, if you have them. Anyone has a question for me?
So
Yeah.
I have a question. Like, if you are planning, let's say, to become a consultant in marketing, so do you have to join a consultancy agency or you can do freelancing also?
You can do freelancing also. It depends how much your clients trust you. A good consultant will often be told this line in their career that I don't care about EY, I care about you. So long as you're there, I don't care if you're with EY or you're on your own. When that happens, then you can start your own private consulting as well. Okay?
Okay, so
It's about how good your relationship, how much they trust you. Okay, I've seen one question coming in over here, which is, are the Luxuries in consulting, true, which is told through social media? Absolutely not. Never believe anything on social media. It's rubbish. Okay. Can you tell a bit more about media consultancy? Isha, if you could explain what you mean by media consultancy, because that's a very, very vast term. What exactly are you looking at? Is it media buying? Is it media industry, which is what I look at? What exactly are you wanting to know? Or you can type it in. Till then, Stuti, you have a question?
Yes, so I wanted to ask that you mentioned first it is like preferable to start from industry and then switch to consulting after an MBA. So,
Yeah.
sir, the switch, is it easy to do a switch from one industry to then consulting? Because when I was doing internship, someone had told me that in the initial years you can switch your industry, but later once you are into that, it becomes difficult to get a switch done. So I wanted to like know your
Very
overview
good.
on that.
Very good question. And there's honestly no answer. I have seen CFOs become CEOs. I have seen people from, the current CEO of Hindustan Times, the guy called Praveen Someshwar. He used to be the CEO of Pepsi in Southeast Asia. And he came and started running a newspaper. All right, the Sony CEO just retired, a guy called NP Singh, used to work for Modi Xerox as a finance guy. Then he joined Sony in India as a CFO. And then he retired as a CEO of Sony. So it is possible to move between industry and consulting. And there are many, many examples like this. But I must reiterate what I had said earlier on. Don't think of consulting now. Wait till you get enough experience that people pull you and say, why don't you be a consultant for me? Because then once you're 40, once you have learned what life is about, how things work and why they don't work, more importantly, that's when you actually, become worthy of being a consultant. Right now, you just, you'll be punching papers and stapling them and filing them and creating work programs and doing all kinds of rubbish, formatting documents. That's 80% of your role in the first 2-3 years as a consultant if you join right away. I would rather you waited and gained a lot of experience before thinking about being a consulting. Then whether you're in industry, whether you're in a consulting firm, honestly doesn't matter. You can shift. It's fine.
Okay, sir.
But,
And sir, one follow-up
but
question.
sorry, one last. Being consultant to industry normally ends in heartache. But anyway, just telling you. Okay.
Yeah, sir. So, sir, is it necessary if we are in one particular industry, we need to do consulting in that industry itself, like become a consultant for that industry?
Whatever you have knowledge in is the only thing people will accept you as a consultant, right? If I'm exceptional in, implementing, banking systems, then I can only be a consultant in that. I can't become a consultant in implementing, I don't know, something else like a dance class, right? So I'm just saying that when you become an expert in something, that's when you can become a consultant. Until that time, you should not become a consultant. I hope that clarifies, Stuti. Become
Yeah,
an
sir.
expert.
Thank
Your
you.
aim should be to specialize and become an expert in something. Then you become a consultant in that. Mithil, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good
Yes,
afternoon.
yes. I wanted to ask, what's the difference between a consultant and an advisor?
Nothing. It's the same thing. It's whatever we.
Same thing. Okay.
Yeah. Advisors are nothing but consultants. They no difference. Okay. It's basically someone whose gyan you listen to, someone you trust, and you can work with them.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. I think then we're done. Placement
On
cell
behalf
people.
of
Yeah, done. Okay.
Yeah, on behalf of the placement cell of HR College, I want to extend our sincere gratitude to Mr. Ashish Pherwani for his insightful and engaging session today. It was both informative and highly beneficial. We also appreciate the ongoing support and guidance from our principal, Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, and Dr. Naveen Punjabi, Associate Professor and Director of Placements. Students, you must have also gotten the feedback form, so just remember to fill that feedback form. Thank you all for joining us today.
Bye, guys. All the best in your careers.